In lesson F3, we're working with the multiplication properties of exponents. You're going to notice that I have this NAME. I would probably recommend you write that down also. So as you are taking a look at it, what we want to take a look at is A is nothing, or N is nothing. A is when you add. M is to multiply. And E is for exponent. And what this is telling you is that when you have an exponent raised to an exponent, you should multiply. When you are multiplying two exponents together, like x squared times x to the third, you should add their exponents. And if you are adding something like x squared plus x squared, you should do nothing because that stays as 2x squared. So that is the nothing with the exponents. When you multiply x to the third times x to the second, multiplying, we are adding those exponents. That gives me x to the fifth. And if I have an exponent raised to the exponent, so x to the fifth raised to the second, that's going to be multiplying x to the 10th. So today our properties, I can apply the properties. Again, we're going to ask you to write and show those rules as you are looking at. So when you do your homework at this first part, we're just asking you to, what does this mean? 4 to the fifth raised to the second. That means I have 2 4 to the fifths. So if I'm looking at that, I have 2 4 to the fifths, which if I was going to write it out in expanded form means that as I look at that, I have 5 4s, I have another 5 4s, but if we're going to keep our answer as a power, there's a shortcut. And our shortcut when we are looking at these is to multiply our two exponents together. So anytime we are looking at, if I have an exponent, x to the fifth, raised to the fourth, that would mean I have 4x to the fifth. So I can multiply that and get x to the 20th as I'm looking at that. As you look at this next one, again, we are going to apply that rule. So we're going to take the 4. We do not make this 16. You keep the 4 and you take 2 times 3, which gives us 4 to the 6th. Here we are going to take the 2. Is not raised to a power, so that really stays as 2 to the first. And we are going to take w to the 10th because we are multiplying the 5 and 2. Here when we multiply our exponents, same thing. You are going to be taking m and you're taking 1/3 times 5 over 1. That is going to give us m to the 5/3. You are going to keep it as 5/3 as your exponent. You are not going to write that as an or as a mixed number. Keep it improper. This is really nice. 3 times 1/3. Oh, when we take 3 over 1 times 1/3, that gives us 1. So f to the first, and a lot of times we will just write that as just f. A lot of times we don't put that exponent 1. As you look at the next one, we are going to be simplifying. So again, looking at our rule, we have, if we are looking at this one, y to the third, and it is times, if we are thinking about this, we have y to the third times y to the 5/2 raised to the -2. First step we have to do is do this multiplication first. So we are going to have y to the third times y to the, if we are looking at that, we could have -10 over 2. -2 over 1 times 5/2, top times top, -10 over 2. Could we simplify that right away and put y to the third times y to the -5th? Yes. We're multiplying, so that NA multiplying means we're going to add. That gives us y to the -2. When we look at our answer, our solution for this problem should be 1 over y to the second. We cannot have any negative exponents. So if we are simplifying that, our final answer will look like this. If you leave this, I will be ending up marking it wrong. So we really have to follow these order of operations. This x to the second stays. We are going to take times x to the 6 times -4 gives us -24. That will leave us with x to the -22. As we are writing our answer, we would put 1 over x to the 22nd for our final answer. I would like you to try these next two. Again, follow your order of operations. Do this first. Here, do this first. Pause the video, and then as you finish, come back and turn it back on and take a look at what I'm doing. W to the -2 times w to the 5/3 times 3 over 1. That is just going to be w to the 5th. Gives me w adding those to the 3rd as I am taking a look at that. This next one, I'm going to have j negative times a negative will be positive 5 over 2 times j to the 3 over 2. Since I have a common denominator, I can simply add those, and I'm going to have j to the 3. I'm going to add the 5 and 3. 5 plus 3 gives me 8 over 2, which is j to the 4th for a simplified answer. On your next page, we talk about raising a power to a product to a power. So when both the 4 and the m are inside, that means there are going to be 3 4m to the halves. That means I'm going to have 3 4's multiplied and 3m to the 1/2. That gives me 4 to the 3rd and m to the 3/2 because we are adding the 1 plus 1 plus 1. 4 to the 3rd, because it's this one that we should have memorized, is 64, and then we'll leave this one as 4 to the 3/2. If they ask you to leave it as a power, you would stop at this point. This is your answer as a power. This would be our simplified solution as we are taking a look. So the property rule in algebra says to raise a product to a power, you must raise each factor to that power and then multiply. So a to the n and b to the n, we take each one to the nth power. Again, notice they can't be 0 because then we wouldn't have, it would kind of be undefined when we are looking at that. And n has to be rational. Some examples, 3x to the 4th power is going to leave us with 3 to the 4th, x to the 4th, and then we want to simplify that. Here's another example. Notice they have 4 to the 3/2, b to the 3/2. Remembering that this is going to give us 4 to the 1/2, 4 to the 1/2 raised to the 3rd power. So remember 4 to the 1/2 just means the square root of 4, which equals 2. But now we have to take it to the 3rd power, and that's how they got the 8 when you are looking at that. So we're going to have some problems like that. So if you need to refer back to these, make sure you do that and take a look at these. Again, I wrote that NAME to kind of help me. I'm going to start off, and as I'm looking at this one, I'm going to take 7 to the 3rd. I'm going to take m to the 9 times 3, which gives me 27. So I have, if I'm looking at that, 343 is 7 to the 3rd. I could use my calculator, m to the 27th. Make sure I can tell that you have exponents. Here we have a negative exponent. Well, there's a couple different ways of doing this. I like to sometimes get rid of that negative exponent. So if I think it over 1, I'm going to rewrite it as 2g, and now it's going to be to the positive 4th power. So I have 1 over 2 to the 4th and g to the 4th. 2 to the 4th happens to be 16, so I'm going to have 1 over 16g to the 4th as I am looking at that one. Again, if you need to pause the video or replay something to have it make a little more sense to you, I do want you to be aware that there are sometimes people will do this one and they'll do it this way. They'll do 2 to the negative 4 and g to the negative 4, and then they'll rewrite it like this to get your final answer here. So both ways are going to work. There's more than one way to do these problems. Taking a look at this next one, you notice that you have 3 to c to the 5/2 raised to the 4th times c to the 2 raised to the 3rd power. Again, you want to start the problem off with 3, and you are going to put that to the 4th power. You're going to take 5/2 times 4 over 1. You are going to take c to the 2 times 3. So again, if I'm looking at this problem, I remember 3 to the 4th because 3 to the 2nd and 3 to the 2nd is 9 times 9, or 81. Here, 2 can go into 4, or 20 divided by 2 is still going to give me c to the 10th. And then I have c, and here I am multiplying those, so c to the 6th. Now is when I add the 2. So my final answer is going to be 81, and I'm adding 10 and 6 because they have the same base, c to the 16. Again, as I look at that last problem, try it first on your own. Maybe pause the video and kind of look at the problem and think, okay, what's my first step? And we got to get rid of that parenthesis. And then what's the next step? So kind of watch it, pause, 6 to the third, a to the third, b to the third. Remember, these are all to the first. Here, 5 to the second, but now I got to do some multiplying with a to the negative 3 times 2. 6 to the third, and I'm going to organize and put my numbers first. 5 to the second. I have a to the third, and I have another a. This a is going to be times a to the negative 6, and b to the third. So if I'm looking at that, the 6 to the third, 216, 5 to the second, 25. Definitely using my calculator. I have a to the 3 and a to the negative 6, which leaves me with a to the negative 3. And I have b to the 3. Cannot have any negatives in my answer for an exponent. So I'm going to multiply these two together. That gives me 5,400. I'm going to keep the b to the third, and I'm going to move the a to the denominator over a to the third. Again, if you need to pause the video as you're watching these, just to kind of check and make sure, go back and replay it, make sure it's making sense to you. Your homework tonight is, as you are working on page 436, please again write down the problem, 11 to 33 odd, 43 to 61 odd. What I am looking for is you showing me the rule. So put the problem down, then show me your rule. Now these first ones, when you're taking 8 times 4, put the 8 times 4, then give me the n to the 32nd. So write them down, especially where you have more than one step, so I can see that. Tomorrow or next week when we come back, we're going to be doing a worksheet on F3 on Monday, and on that point we will probably take a small homework quiz that'll cover the F1 unit and the F2. So we won't do that today. I'm going to give you some time to work on these, but we will have a quiz probably simplifying with the negative exponents and the 0, and then also like we were just looking at F2. So good luck, and remember to write down your problems to show the work. Answers for the odds are in the back, so make sure you're checking after you do a few.